If you don't know me, my name is Mark Van Buren, and I'm a meditation instructor, a yoga instructor as well. But my main thing is really teaching meditation and mindfulness. And that was going to be the original workshop, an introduction to meditation and mindfulness. And it's still going to be. But we're also kind of throwing in finding peace with difficult times, just because of the nature of the situation we're dealing with. And, life presents us with plenty of difficult times. So if we don't have any practice to help us with that, then we're gonna have a really hard time with difficult times. So this is a strange time. Some of us are home maybe more than we usually are, and maybe we're bored or restless, and we're dealing with that. Others, with some financial responsibilities. Maybe it's, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to feed my kids, especially if you can't go to work? So a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of worry. And then still there's others that, have chronic conditions or might be a little bit older, or maybe some of you out there have older grandparents or parents. And, the concern about this virus, killing somebody. It's can be scary. So what do we do with all this? This is all stuff that we can use for our practice. And I'm hoping that I can give you to really face all these things in a radically different way. So let me kind of start with meditation and mindfulness. Meditation is normally understood in a couple different ways. On one level, it's presented in like the kind of hippie, new age way, like everything's love and unicorns and rainbows, and that's not real life. There's nothing wrong with positive thinking, but something like cancer or the situation we're in now, or difficult times. I mean, they're not all rainbows and unicorns, and that's okay. And it's okay to go through difficult times, and I mean, it's a part of life. It's a part of our real life, and we can pretend like it's not, but it is. So that's like one way that it's presented, as like just this all love and stuff. Another way it's presented as like getting everything you desire. Like, oh, let's meditate so that I can manifest every desire that I have. Now, I come from a Buddhist tradition that says that, grasping on to self-centered desires is actually the biggest form of our suffering. So for me to teach somebody, hey, meditate to manifest everything you desire, one, is unrealistic. You can't get everything you want. That's not how life works. And two, maybe if we let go of desire, we might find ourselves a little more content, a little more happy. So something to think about. So that's another way that it's presented. A third way it's presented, and especially now, is as stress reduction, purely stress reduction. Let's meditate to reduce our stress, to feel good, to just kind of step out of our lives for a second. And again, nothing wrong with doing it that way, but for me, I want it to be practical. I really want it to make sense in my life. It's great if you go take 10 minutes of your day to de-stress and feel good, but if it doesn't, bridge the gap into your daily life, and you just go right back to anxiety and depression and a slave to your thoughts and your feelings and your moods, then what good is the practice? You could do 20 years of feeling good for 10 minutes every day, and then when something falls apart in your life, or you deal with something like this, where the rug's pulled out, you have no tools. Right? So the practice doesn't make any sense then. So I present meditation in a radically different way, based on the way that I've practiced over the past 12 years, and that's as a life practice. So meditation has to be a life practice. It's not like a multivitamin. You take it in the morning and you forget about it. This practice is 24/7. Are you awake? Are you aware? Do you know what's going on in this moment? Do you know what's going on in your mind, in your body? What mood is present? Are you stuck in that mood? Are you free from that mood? I mean, it includes everything. And that's what I love about it, is that my practice includes everything. Whether I'm hanging out with my kids and loving my life in that moment, whether I'm at the bedside of somebody in hospice, whether I'm stuck in traffic at work, whether I'm bored at home because of the coronavirus, it's all included, and it's all the ingredients of our lives, and it's all the ingredients of our practice. And it's the common analogy is of the lotus flower. The lotus flower blossoms right there in the middle of the mucky, dirty pond. It's not that you have to clean up everything first and filter all the mud out. It's right here in the mess of our lives that we can grow spiritually, that we can cultivate wisdom, live more wisely, live more compassionately, and live more kindly. So meditation is a full life practice. And another reason why I don't like when it's just like, let me just feel good for 10 minutes, when meditation becomes just another way to feel good, you miss the whole point, right? Because you can't have equanimity if you only like the good stuff, right? We can't feel complete within ourselves if we only hold on to this little patch of good stuff. We have to embody everything. We have to be spacious enough to hold everything, the 10,000 joys and sorrows of our lives, right? And the good news is that there's a part of ourselves that's already spacious enough to hold everything, right? And the analogy I use is, imagine your whole life, you've thought that you were the colors and lights on a movie screen. So when there was a sad scene, you were sad. When there was happy, you were happy. When there was a painful scene, you were in pain. But then someone comes along and reminds you that you're the movie screen itself, right? You are that which allows experience to arise in the first place, right? And just like a movie screen is not affected by the different scenes played on it, there's a part of ourselves that we can take refuge in, especially during these difficult times, that is not affected by the moods, by the thoughts, by the feelings, by the sensations, by everything going on. And it's not a way to escape or push it away. It's just finding peace right within it. And T.S. Eliot said it beautifully. He said, the still point of the turning world. And our meditation practice is going to reconnect us with that still point. So let me get to my definition of meditation. So for me, I have like an A and a B. In the dictionary you have like A, B, C. You have all these different versions. So I have two versions that I like. So as far as meditation, on one level, we're just practicing being present, right? Practicing being in this very moment. And why, right? Why do we want to be here in this moment? Well, what's so special about this moment? Well, here are 3 words for you that I think you can contemplate for the rest of your life and go deeply into and get a lot of insight from. This is it, right? This is it. Look around, wherever you are. Feel your body in this moment. Hear the sounds. Notice the thoughts. Notice whatever's present. This is your life. There is no other place. Right? And sometimes people are like, oh, great. Right? And I get that. Sometimes life isn't that pleasant. But it's really empowering when you truly get this here. It's one thing to understand it here. Yeah, I get it. I can't be anywhere else. But when you truly understand that this is your life, that this is it. Whether you like it or not, this is your life presently. And there's two options, right? We can accept it and work with it. Or we can keep fighting it, complaining about it, and causing unnecessary suffering in the meantime. Things are hard enough. We don't have to resist it and fight it and make it worse, right? So there's a peaceful way to approach these things. So on one level, we're practicing being present. And how often are you present? Think about that. Let's say if you went for a walk outside, how often are you actually feeling the steps, smelling the air, hearing the birds, feeling the wind on your face or the warmth of the sun, right? Most of the time it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And, now that we don't have our job, maybe we're a little more present, but it's like, I got to get this done for work and I got to go food shopping and this and that. We miss our lives because we're so busy thinking about our lives. And I don't know about you, but that bothers me. I don't want to miss my life as it happens. I don't want to be so busy thinking about life and caught in the storylines about my life and the dramas that I create in my mind. Meanwhile, a beautiful day, right? A beautiful day. Or just whatever's happening in this moment. So we want to practice being present because a lot of unnecessary suffering comes from thinking about life, right? Our memories, what's happened, how many people out there are just trying to rehash the past. If only I did this, if only I made this choice, if only, right? What's done is finished, right? We got to grow up. What's happened is done. And I'm not saying that, if, especially if you had trauma in your life, that you still don't have to process things, because you do. You have to deal with the things that have happened, but it's finished. It's done. There's nothing you can do about it, right? And the future, same thing, right? I know there's a monk, and he says, I can tell the future and I always get it right. And he says, it's uncertain, right? And that's true for all of us. And don't let this coronavirus situation, fool you, right? Because we think, oh, this coronavirus threw us into uncertainty. No, we've always been right in the middle of uncertainty. Every day of our lives is uncertain. So it's not that one thing or another causes it. It might remind us, like it's definitely reminding us, hey, we're not in control here. There's a, lot going on here. So practicing being present. And even in the present moment, we're not really here, right? Oh, it's too cold, it's too hot, I'm too bored, I need this, I need that. We're not ever here because we're so busy commenting and narrating the present moment that we never really touch into the rawness of it, to the actual felt sense of it. So meditation, step one, right, is practicing with this is it. Practicing with coming in to the present moment. And then part B of that definition I have is practicing being at ease with life and ourselves just the way they are, right? So we kind of think of meditation as, if I do it long enough, I'll attain something called peace. But the truth is, you're practicing peace. You're practicing being at ease, bringing ease to whatever's arising. It's not about feeling good. It's about feeling whatever is there to be felt, right? We're not trying to manipulate or change. This is what we do in our lives, and it never really works, right? Try to hold the pleasant, try to push away the unpleasant, right? And our life becomes a push and a pull, a push and a pull. Instead, we can just let go of that pushing and pulling and say, okay, now this. There's another 2 words that you can use in your life. You wake up and you're feeling sad and anxious, okay, now this, right? This is the truth of my life in this moment, and I can learn to relate to it rather than live from it. And that's like the key of this practice. How do I relate to these things, right? I become the movie screen, and I can relate differently to the scenes of the movie because I have this wider perspective, right? So practicing being at ease with life just the way it is. Really, put that part into your mind, just the way it is. And so many people give up meditation because they sit down and they think it's going to be really nice and peaceful, and their mind's a complete disaster. It's like being locked in a closet with a maniac sometimes. And they think, well, this doesn't work for me. And, they try it once. This doesn't work for me. I can't stop my mind. Can you sit down at a piano and play Beethoven the first time that you try? No, of course not. Right? So how do you expect to be able to be centered and at ease with yourself the first time you sit? It's not easy. Especially in the beginning, it's not easy. But it just takes some practice, and you get better and you get better at it, at being at ease, right? So, and then the other thing about my mind is so busy. Fine. That's just simply what's true. Busy mind, right? We don't have to stop our mind. A quiet mind or an empty mind is not a mind that does not think. If you're alive, your mind's going to think. Your heart beats. That's what it does. It's an organ. Your stomach digests. That's what it does. It's an organ. Guess what? Your mind's an organ too, and your mind was made to think. So if you sit down and meditate and you have a lot of thoughts, great, you're alive. That's pretty normal, right? Again, it's how do we relate to these thoughts differently rather than live from them? How do we not become these thoughts? And how do we see what thought patterns are skillful and wholesome and, continue to cultivate those? And how do we see which ones are not? Which ones are causing suffering to ourselves or other people? And how do we learn to let go of those? So it's a big life practice, and it's so much more than just sitting, right? So those are my 2 definitions: practicing being present and then practicing being at ease with life just the way it is, exactly the way it is. Right? So no matter what's there, as long as you're paying attention and opening to it, you're doing it. Right? It doesn't matter if you have a lot of thoughts. Great. Thinking mind. Good to see you again. You can hang out here too. Right? It's that simple. Worried mind. Oh, hey, worried mind. Nice to see you again. I'm sure you're going to be visiting me a lot these days. Come on in. Right? So let's take this a little bit further. So I break down, like, what are we actually trying to do when we meditate? I break it down into three different things. All right, so bear with me here. I go on a lot of tangents too, so I'm going to try to stay focused. So first, what are we doing? We're trying to cultivate mindfulness. And what is mindfulness? Well, I have 5 definitions for that. So here we go, right? So on one level, it's an intentional paying attention. Right? So we're practicing being present. We're actually intentionally bringing our attention, bringing our awareness to the experience right now. Right? Inside, outside, the 5 senses, the 6th sense being not talking to dead people, but your thinking mind is the 6th sense. And just really seeing what's here. Like just, wanting to look. Right? And it's an intentional paying attention without judgment, an unbiased paying attention. That's the second part of it. We're not trying to push away. We're not trying to hold on. We're just trying to be open. And what I do in the guided meditation sometimes is I say, imagine yourself as a house, an empty house. Nobody's home, but all the doors and windows are open. Right? So anything can come in, anything can stay, anything can go. Right? That's the kind of attention that we're learning to cultivate as we do the actual sitting. Right? Just this open, spacious, welcoming attention. The third part is that there's a sense of warmth. This isn't just a cold paying attention, right? A sniper can pay attention intentionally when he's about to blow somebody's head off. I mean, that's not what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to bring a sense of warmth. And we're a society of self-hatred. We really judge ourselves a lot. We really talk down to ourselves a lot. So this is very radical for us to just sit there, to not try to fix things, to not make something better, to not make ourselves feel a certain way or push away a feeling we don't like, but just to say, now this. Great. This is my life. Okay. Maybe unpleasant right now, maybe pleasant right now, but those things come and go, right? Things come and go. So a mood will come and go, your fears will come and go, a busy mind will come and go, a quiet mind will come and go. Everything comes and goes, right? And we try to find some equanimity at the center of that. The next part is curiosity, and this plays a really important role in living meditation, right? Because it's not just about sitting on a cushion. Even in my yoga classes, at the end of my yoga class, I say, listen, your practice is just starting as you roll your mat up. Your practice didn't end, it's just starting. And to me, an advanced yogi, an advanced meditator, I look at how they're living the rest of their life. Great, you can do a handstand. Great, you can sit in meditation for 2 hours. Woo, great. You could do a split or some crazy stuff on Instagram. That's nice and that's fun. And I don't do splits, but I like to do handstands and things. It's fun, I get it. But how are you living the rest of your life? That's an advanced person, That's, to me, is advanced, right? So living your practice, curiosity becomes extremely important. So let's say you struggle with anxiety right now, especially right now. So when anxiety comes up, usually it's just, you become it. You're an anxious person all of a sudden. It arises and, I'm anxious. And, I don't like this. And, I shouldn't feel this way. And nobody else online looks like they're anxious. They all look happy. And poor me, I'm the idiot that's anxious by myself. What's wrong with me? I need help. And we get so lost in it, right? Now, you could do something a little differently, right? The sensation of anxiety could arise and you could say, what is this? Right? You become curious. We think we know what anxiety is, but we've never looked at it. We've never welcomed it. I work one-on-one with people for meditation and mindfulness, and I tell them, I work a lot with anxiety, people with anxiety. So I tell them, I say, listen, have you ever welcomed it? Have you ever just willingly felt it? Like just felt the unpleasant feeling of anxiety? And they, look like they saw a ghost. Of course not. Why would I want to do that? I want to get rid of this. But it's a part of you. It's something that's arising. It's what's true in that moment. It's your life in that moment. Why do you want to reject a part of your life just because it's unpleasant, right? So we want to look at it and say, okay, how long does this last? What if I set a timer for 2 hours and I just sat here and I let it feel uncomfortable? I felt that tightness. I felt that heaviness. I felt whatever it feels like. And you see the thoughts about it, but you try to let those go and come back to that felt sense. Unpleasant tightness, heaviness, and just kind of relaxing with that. Because if you can learn to relax with that which is unpleasant to you, that's how you get an equanimous mind. One of my favorite words, equanimous. You can't have an equanimous mind if you just want things that feel good and comfortable. And that's not life, right? Zorba the Greek, I think, said, trouble, life is trouble, right? So this is what we got. This is the situation. We need to train our nervous system to be okay with discomfort, with uncomfortable situations, with uncomfortable feelings and states of mind, because these things are going to arise. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just part of the human condition for these unpleasant things to visit from time to time, right? Aging, illness, death. These are real things that we can't run away from. As much as we want to pretend like it doesn't happen, it will happen. So how do we relate to that? How do we train ourselves to be open to that? It's not easy. This is not an easy practice. It's simple. Sit there, pay attention, open up. But it's not easy. If you've ever tried it, that you'll see. So curiosity is an important part. Being willing to look. And then the last part, I think, is very important about what cultivating mindfulness means, is being willing to be with your life just the way it is. Because think of our suffering. Look at your suffering in your life. 2 categories, right, that causes suffering in our lives. Something's wrong, something's missing, right? Life shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't feel this way. Things should not be happening like this. Right? Those are the 2 forms of suffering that really most suffering fits in. Right? In this situation, it shouldn't be happening, but it is. Right? But it is happening. And part of meditation, I think, is just being a spiritual grown-up. Right? Having a mature practice and just saying, okay, my life is like this now. How can I meet this moment to bring the least amount of suffering? Or how can I meet this moment to bring the most ease? Right? How can I be of most use in this moment? Right? This way, everything in our lives becomes a source of our practice, a source of our growth on the spiritual path, if you want to call it that, whatever path you want to call it. So that's cultivating mindfulness, an unbiased, intentional paying attention with a sense of warmth, with some curiosity, and with a willingness to be here. We sit upright in meditation. And we relax our body and we say, okay, whatever arises, I'm going to sit here with it. I'm going to remain unmoved and I'm going to be open. I'm going to feel what needs to be felt, let go of thoughts that arise, and just be still, right? And when you practice that day in and day out and day in and day out, and then you start practicing it in your life, just at work something happens and you open to it and you pause with it, then you start cultivating this mind that is open, that is free. And then that becomes your default mode. Right now, default mode is mindlessness, right? Scattered, unconscious. Don't even know what's going on in the mind most of the time because you are becoming it without even paying attention, right? So our practice is about waking up. That's why they call it awakening, right? We're waking up to what's going on so that we can be skillful, so that we can act in a skillful and wholesome way and not be so limited to our thoughts and our fears and our moods and all of these things that we experience in our lives, that we're free to choose how to act. So the second part of meditation, so that was under cultivating mindfulness. The second part is making friends with what we find, or you could call it unconditional friendliness, radical friendliness, doesn't matter the word. Whatever word you like. But again, normally in life, things arise, and if we like it, we want more of it, and we try to hold on to it, we try to, grasp it, and when unpleasant things arise, we just want nothing to do with it. we push it away. And that's like that push-pull I was saying. So in meditation, we are making friends with whatever arises. And how do we do that? By allowing things to be the way they are. Very hard for us to do as human beings, but we can do it. I do it. I'm not special. I don't have a super, power or anything. That we can just pause and say, okay, it's like this. My mind is agitated and my, feelings are, anxious and my body's all tense and, okay, this is my life. Let me make friends with it, right? What's the alternative? Again, we have to think of what's the alternative, right? Fighting it, complaining about it, how does that feel, right? It doesn't feel good. So to just say, okay, this is what's here, cultivate this unconditional friendliness in this 20 minutes of meditation. Whatever arises belongs, right? Whatever arises is allowed to be here, and I will welcome it, right? So, and we say it like that, unconditional friendliness over and over again. Now the last part of meditation, of what we're doing, is learning to live beyond small-mindedness. And what I refer to, in recent times is me world. How can I step out of me world, right? And what is me world? Everything in our lives gets filtered through what I like and what I don't like, right? And it's just like, for example, it's like, I want life to be this way. I want you to be that way. I don't think this should happen. I don't want this to happen. I don't like feeling this way. I want to feel this way. And we put these restrictions on this vast open reality to this tiny cocoon or this tiny bubble. And if life does not fit this tiny bubble, we suffer and we blame life. But it's not life. It's our own small-mindedness, right? And we don't have to live from a small mind. We can live from a vast mind, from a spacious mind, from that still point of the turning world. That T.S. Eliot said, that we mentioned in the beginning. So learning to let go of ourselves, right? Not an easy thing to do. We're very attached to what we think is right. We're very attached to what we like and what we don't like, our preferences. And it causes us a lot of suffering. So how do we let that go, right? And it's as simple as just labeling. When you notice yourself selfing, right? Not selfieing, selfing, right? Something happens and the mind goes, ooh, I don't like that. I don't want any more of that. And you just say, aversion, good to see you, right? Or dislike, okay, thanks for your opinion, right? It's literally that simple. We have to wake up to the fact that we're not our thoughts. And we're not these feelings. They come and go. How many of you out there, wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to be anxious all day? Anybody? Right? It doesn't work that way. You wake up and anxiety's there, right? We don't have a choice sometimes, most of the time. So how can we identify with something that we have no control over? Same thing with the mind. When you sit in meditation, you'll find out very quickly that you have no control over what arises in your mind, that things are just coming and going and just chatter. There might be some habitual tendencies, right? That's normal for the mind, some habits of the mind. But that's okay. We just learn to work with them, learn to let them go if they're causing us problems. So that's the three parts, right? So we have, let me just do a quick review just in case you're just tuning in now. Meditation. Part A is practicing being present. Part B is practicing being at ease with life just the way it is. Please remember that one, just the way it is. And then we broke that down into three parts. Cultivating mindfulness, right? Intentionally paying attention without judgment, with a sense of warmth, with a sense of curiosity, and with a willingness to be here. Part 2 is unconditional friendliness, letting whatever arises be there, whether it's a scattered mind or anxiety or a pain in your knee or people doing construction outside, whatever it is, we allow it to be there. We bring unconditional friendliness towards it. Right? You got to spend the rest of your life with yourself. Make it a friendly place. Make it a friendly place. There's no reason not to. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We're going to screw it up all the time. It's fine. That's just what happens. This is our lives. This is called being human. Let's bring a little bit of kindness and friendliness to ourselves. And the last part is learning to let go of me world, or small-mindedness as I called it. So I want to take this a step further to really talk about finding peace during difficult times. So that's my spiel on meditation. So hopefully now you have a better understanding of what this practice is all about, right? It's not just let me go feel good and zone out. It's not let me just reduce my stress. You're going to reduce your stress no matter what if you practice. So you don't have to focus on that. It'll just happen. And you're not trying to make everything a lovey-dovey, happy show, because that's not realistic either. Life is not always happy. Life is not always pleasant, and that's fine. That's totally fine. That's just the way things go. So, I want to introduce you to this thing called Elsa. And I didn't make this up. This is from a Buddhist author, Stephen Batchelor. So if you ever want to find out more about this, go a little more in depth about it, you look up Stephen Batchelor, and he's the one that really talks about this acronym. And the acronym stands for embrace, let go, see, and act. Right? And this is our practice. This is what we're trying to do. And so let's start with E, embrace. What are we embracing? Right? We're learning to embrace our life as it is, right? Meditation and mindfulness, it helps you see what's true in life. Right? Sometimes they're very sobering truths that we'd rather not look at, but we learn to see what's true. Let me give you 2 examples, right? So one thing that's true, right? Impermanence. Everything that arises ceases, right? It's not a belief system, right? It's not something to believe in. It's just what's true, right? When you inhale, you can't breathe in forever. You have to exhale, right? Fall turns to winter, winter to spring, right? Night and day, right? Just look at pictures from 10 years ago. There's impermanence, right? It's just, you look different. Things are different. Right? So life is always flowing and always moving. It's like a great river that's always flowing. So we're never stuck, right? We're never stuck with one thing. So even this coronavirus situation, guess what? It's going to pass down the stream too. And at some point we're going to be like, remember March 2020 when we had to sit at home and we were all nervous about losing our houses and this and that. And, it's going to be a memory. So when we understand that everything is impermanent, it allows us to really relax into whatever's happening, right? When there's pleasant and happiness there, it's like, this is great. And we allow it to be there, but we don't grasp onto it. We don't cling to it. We just let it go when it's time to go. And when something unpleasant arises, a difficult situation, we open to it. Why? Because it's going to pass. It has to. And this is even more liberating when we understand it inside ourselves. Our thoughts, our moods, our emotions, the different states of mind you have, they come, they go. Really easy to get here, but you have to understand it here if you want to have some liberation in your life. You have to really experience it for yourself, to open up. Let's say you're really angry at somebody, to really open up to it and feel the anger and observe it, become curious about it, and see how long does it last, right?